Hey, what up, family? Welcome back to Rise Every Nation, where we unite, uplift, and ignite stories of Black entrepreneurs, creatives, and community builders. Let me ask y'all something real quick. What if your calling in education didn't require you to work inside a single school building? What if your classroom was culture? What if your curriculum was literature? And what if your impact extended beyond the bell schedule? Today's guest has done exactly that. He's an author, an educator, a cultural storyteller, the founder of a mentorship movement for young Black men. His latest work, Black Bliss Volume 1, is bold, is raw, is layered, and necessary. I even heard that, some young women who know him in the community can't even give him a hug after this book because they have to look at him differently.
Um,
Uh, Family, welcome back to the show. Ronald Preston Clark, he's my brother. He's the one who taught me that I could still be an educator, even though I wasn't in the education complex system. And he's allowed me to perfect my craft in some of his spaces in classroom. Mr. Clark, welcome back, good sir. Welcome back.
Glad to be back, brother. And that was an awesome introduction because I might have to steal a couple of those bars you just dropped.
But I mean, you do a good job at just giving me all of the ammo that I need to get those bars in there. Cause I mean, you've been my brother from day one since I met you, even before Rise San Diego. For all those who don't know, Rise San Diego is an urban leadership program out here in San Diego that's helped change the face of leadership for so many Black and brown folks here. And me and Ronald have been blessed to be a part of the cohorts. Which gen are you in? Which gen?
I'm Gen 4.
You Gen 4? Oh, you were right after my gen.
Yeah. They got better as they went on, you know what I'm saying?
See, this is something that we do here. You know, each generation think they better than the next generation. But
Gen
I
4,
like to say
baby.
the Gen 3, third time was a charm. I'm gonna leave it at that. I could do some name dropping,
Man,
but I ain't gonna do that to you. I ain't gonna do
hey,
that to you.
hey, four for what it's worth, baby. You know what I'm saying? Four for what it's worth. But
All
nah,
right, so let me see. Where do we want to start? Most people think of going back to what I was talking about the career. Most people think that if you want a career in education, you have to work for a school district, and you've done that throughout your career. But now you're in this next phase, and you built something different. And I love what you've built and what you are continuing to build. Um, I want you to walk us through that. What was it like for you? What did your early career in education look like, and then what would you say it is now?
it's what I love is that once I came to the conclusion that being a teacher is a job under the name of educator. I realized that I could be an educator in various spaces, in multiple spaces, and that it wasn't just tied to having to work at a school, teaching a subject, teaching a grade, and doing all those sorts of things. So when I got into education, I fell into education. It wasn't even the plan at the time. I had moved back to San Diego from New Jersey, and I was pursuing screenwriting. I was in the professional program for screenwriting at UCLA, and I was in LA twice a week. But in San Diego, I basically had three jobs at the time. I was working at Foot Locker. I had a journalism job online for SB Nation, and I was a classroom assistant for the charter school of San Diego. And I couldn't stand the school, but I loved the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the kids were amazing. I still keep in contact with a couple of them, and I just fell in love with that part. And to me, the best educators teach from love in the first place, and so you can't teach and not love the kids. And so I went from charter school San Diego to Mount Airy Christian Academy, where I was doing literally a bit of everything, and then I ended up at Gompers Preparatory Academy as in their dean's office. So I was basically a campus supervisor, but I always had my eye on getting in the classroom. And so at the end of my first year there, they needed somebody to take over an eighth grade classroom because one of the teachers had a family emergency where she had to leave, and they just needed somebody to kind of finish off the year. And I was like, I'll do it. And so did that. they baptized me in everything eighth grade. I'm still cool with a lot of those eighth graders, and who are now, in their early to mid 20s. But after that, I then started teaching. So I got my first classroom to myself the next year, and basically been rocking and rolling since then. But the years that I credit with turning me into the educator I am now are my 3 years in Chicago, when I was teaching at Urban Prep Academy for Young Men.
Big shout out to Urban Prep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
big shout out.
y'all put in some work over there. I
Yeah,
remember
man.
watching your socials when you was out there. Y'all was killing it out there.
Yeah, and they made me into the educator I am now. And while I was there, I realized that I had gotten good enough to where I could start like helping other teachers, like in teaching other teachers. And so my third year there, I started looking at moving up. I either wanted to be an instructional lead or vice principal, and ended up not working out in Chicago for that particular position, but I got a dean of students position here in San Diego. And so I got a dean of students position in San Diego at Vista La Mesa Academy, and I did that for a year. But within that year, they had wined and dined me, brought me back. They had did everything under the sun to get me here. But then in February of that year, they said they were dissolving the position,
Oh,
and so. But then I realized that God brought me here with that position, but not for that position. And so I started talking to you and Jordan and Nate and all these different people about trying to figure out what my next steps were going to be. And y'all were like, yo, you got enough to go on your own.
mhm.
And I had never considered that. Like that was a big fear of mine, was trying to do this by myself. And ended up conceptualizing Club FBS, which started off as Fitteds Books and Sneakers. Now it's Finances Books and Sneakers. And San Diego Foundation saw something in me and saw something in the program, gave me my first grant. And they basically, yeah,
Shout out to San Diego Foundation.
yeah, Pamela Gray Payton specifically,
There, that's
who,
the OG right there. That's the
yeah,
OG.
who truly believed in me and what I was trying to do. And so we went into uh, 5 schools that first year: Morris, Lincoln, Man, MTM, and Bell. And around that same time, I joined the staff for the Black and Genius Initiative, Biggie, at the University of San Diego. And so Club FBS and Biggie started at the same time. And those are the two things I've been doing for the last 2 years. I mean, last 3 years.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that. Um, and I got the privilege of just kind of seeing you through that journey and seeing all the back end stuff that we was talking about, because we did so many different great workshops in the classroom, outside the classroom, and community. And I just knew your resume was so exhaustive that I was like, man, you got this. And that's when you really took it on to build what education beyond the classroom meant to you with this program, and not decide to limit yourself to one campus. And now you have built this platform with Club FBS, and that platform became the literature for a lot of these young black men,
Mhm.
that people see posted on your timeline. Um, and I'm gonna get into more of that a little bit later, but I wanna take a step back real quick and talk about this book, man. About this book, I ain't finished it all just yet,
Mhm.
because life been life, and then I hadn't had time to really sit and dive into it. But I remember when you first gave it to me, I skipped through a couple of chapters, and then the homie girl said, I read your book. Da, 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 da. Let's talk about Black Bliss Volume One.
Mhm.
This is definitely different from Vinny. Your stories are layered: friendships, masculinity, vulnerability, trauma, vices, identity. They are these thoughts are not sanitized, ladies and gentlemen. This is real grown up conversations. They're not one dimensional.
Yeah.
What compelled you to write stories like this, sir? And then even like there was one in particular. Like somebody was telling me about like 21, a love letter, and St. James. What compelled you to write these stories?
So it's funny how it came about. So when I was in Chicago, I in 20 what was that in 2021, I signed with an agent, with a literary agent who I'm still signed to now, who read the last 10 pages of Vinny and signed me off of just those 10 pages. And that's like unheard of. And so I started working on a sequel to Vinny as my first book. And I had written like 200 something pages of it. But she looked at it more as like, she called it a treatise, not a novel. And so I still had this, this largest amount of words just kind of sitting on my laptop. And so 7 years had passed since I had come out with Vinny. And I just needed something to put in people's hands. Like, I was a better writer now. One thing I love about writing is that it's one of the few things that you get better at as you get older. And so I was a better writer. I wanted to put something in people's hands. I didn't want to wait to do it traditionally. So I was like, let me just almost kind of looked at it like a mixtape. Like, I just need to get this EP kind of out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was first going to do 4 short stories. And then I decided that I was like, you want to know what? Let me take part of what I wrote as that sequel, make that its own short story or a novella, and then write a second novella, but come out with it in one book. And so the reason why it's called Volume 1 is because the plan was to write 2 more in another book as Volume 2. And so I found like a 60 page or so, area of the sequel that I already had written, and made that the first novella in Black Bliss. So when you pick up Black Bliss, 21 A Love Letter is the main 2 characters from Vinny, who were 14 in Vinny. And those of you who don't know what Vinny is, this is Vinny. All right. Award-winning first novel.
Award-winning. Put some respect on his name.
and so I made that the first novella of Black Bliss. And so but I still was working on a second story. Now, for those who have read Vinny, you know that I wrote it so I could teach it. And so it's written, yes, adults have loved it and adults have read it, but I wanted to be able to bring a book into a school setting, because I've always wished I could ask James Baldwin questions and Toni Morrison questions about what they've written, Octavia Butler, because we're just assuming, like, we're just guessing what these writers are trying to tell us. We don't really truly know for sure, because we're not actually talking to them. I wanted to be able to answer the questions from a book from students, because I'm the writer of said book. Toni Morrison said that she wrote her first book because she wanted to read it. I wrote my first book because I wanted to teach it. And so, so Vinny, even though there are, a couple of moments, it's fairly easy. I mean, it's fairly, where I've had really intelligent 8th graders on up read Vinny, right? This one, Black Bliss Volume 1, I was sitting in my home at the time, and I had written as Vinny for so long that I couldn't come up with the voice for this new character. And his name is Nadir St. James, and St. James is a play on James St. Patrick, from Power. That's where I got the St. James. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, I just couldn't get his voice. I was like, cause I write in first person. So I do what I call method writing, where, like how I have method acting, I do method writing, where I basically become said character. And so one night, I'm struggling with his voice. And so I grabbed 5 novels off my bookshelf, and read the first page of all 5 of the novels, just to kind of see what these writers were doing to get into their stories. And after the 5th one, his voice hits me, and I ended up writing like 3,500 words that night. But what was crazy about it was, as I'm writing it, the character is telling me, bruh, I want to curse. Like the character was like, yo, I'm a grown man. I'm going to be profane. Like, we're going to go to places that you've never gone before. And because of me being an educator and a teacher and a mentor, I've always refrained from adult subject matter in my writing. And because students have read my stuff. But I finally was like, you want to know what? I Need to Write As Me for the first time ever, and Nadir St. James gave me that outlet. So the second story in Black Bliss is way more Eric Jerome Dickey, Omar Tyree, Connie Briscoe, Zane, Tarek McMillan, like that kind of era of fiction with my own flair to it. Because I'm naturally not a vulgar person,
Yeah.
so I came up with creative ways to say, certain topics and say certain lines, and people have called me laughing at some of the ways I said stuff. But the story, the actual theme of it though, is that it's a 31-year-old black man who's coming out of a toxic relationship and what follows. And
Ooh.
so it came from the writers write from themselves in a lot of ways, and so there's a lot of me in my late 20s and early 30s in this story.
Yeah.
And but I had so much fun writing it because I felt so uninhibited. Like I'd write something and I'd question myself. I'm like, can I say that? Yeah, I can.
Right.
So I just tell my mom, you can buy it, but don't read it. I tell students they can't read it till they're 18. Uh, like I told them, I'll be like, when you're getting on your plane to fly to your college, then I'll hand you the book, and that'll be the book you can read on. 'Cause I can't have them, meeting the real me
Yeah.
until they're old enough to do so. But
Ah,
man,
that's too
it was
funny.
just a lot of fun. I got to work with DeVale, who was the book manager for my first book as well. He worked with me with this one. He helped me with getting the cover designed, which was
Right.
designed by a woman named Amber, who lives in Chicago. She also did the artwork for my hoodie for Vinny. I got to work with Ebony Harvey, who's known as EB Better. Got to work with her
Mhm.
again. And so I always like to squad up. Was able to put money in their pockets through my efforts, and it was really a team effort. We got to put together visuals,
I
which
love
I
it.
always enjoy doing, and so it just was a really fun process. A lot of this was writing it for me. It hasn't sold nearly at the level that Vinny did, but I actually don't really care. It was more so I just wanted to have something else to give people to show
Mhm.
my versatility as a writer, and to show what I'm capable of. And so when the next book comes out, people will know, like, okay, Ronald's pen game is still at the
Yeah.
level that it's always been.
Yeah, we appreciate that, and this is one of those things that's probably going to mature over and age like fine wine. I'm thinking too. Like, I know you said you had fun writing it. I'm curious to know, like, was there any fear around like how these narratives will be received? And the second piece to that is like, did you have any challenges that you faced as a black male writer in telling such an emotionally complex story?
Yeah, there's always a fear, right? I remember my godmom read Vinny, and after 40 pages, she was like, "Is this about you?" Like she was concerned. But it's because I have my younger self reputation.
Yeah.
I've always been a God fearing man. I've always been um, uh, polite. I've always been respectful. I've always had a really fairly clean cut reputation, and so when you go out of those lanes and out of those parameters that you've created for yourself, it can catch people off guard sometimes.
Mhm.
And but people who know me on a personal, intimate level, they know the complexities of me. They know the different levels I can go with my personality and the topics I can discuss, the jokes I will make, things of that nature. So it goes back to, like, sometimes I've always asked myself, like, people like actors and actresses who are in rated R movies or on TV shows that are rated mature, like, when they're talking to their family and stuff, like, yo, I want you to watch my work. Like, imagine, you've been invited by Holly Berry to watch Monsters Ball, you know what I mean? And you get to see, those particular scenes on the screen, or, a character in Power, or any of the adult television that we all watch. Like, those people have family members. Like, those people have people close to them who may be uncomfortable with, what gets shown on screen. And at the end of the day, you just have to ask yourself, are you okay with, allowing yourself to kind of go there?
Hmm.
And those were some of the questions I definitely asked myself. I was definitely fearful, because there's certain people who, I don't want to change how they see me,
Hmm.
based off of what I'm writing. But I think coming out with Vinny first, where people got to see that part of me first, I think it is allowing more people to be accepting of Black Bliss. And the Vinny story in 21 a love letter is first in Black Bliss. So
Hmm.
you get adult Vinny, but you still get that Vinny element before I hit you with, oh, this is 30, 38, 39-year old Preston now writing in that second piece. And so
Yeah.
that's why we had to put the 21 a love letter first, so people could see, the end of that journey. And then now they're seeing, okay, this is where Preston is now as a writer. So
Nah, I love that. Thank you for sharing. Now, another personal curious question for me because I'm in this phase of life where, I've been writing a little bit more, and I'm about to step in the lane with you and test my pen game in the world, and start to get some books next to all the other accolades. And I'm curious to learn like publishing challenges as a black writer, and especially marketing independently. What were there any challenges, or like what would you give to like new people stepping into the game like myself as advice for like what to look out for when you start publishing and marketing independently?
So I use KDP, which is the self-publishing arm of Amazon.
Mm,
But I don't push people to Amazon to purchase my books. And so
mm.
the way it is you can upload your PDF for free.
Oh wow, I
Yeah,
didn't even know that.
yeah, to Amazon. A lot of self-publishing places you got to put up money. It's free. And then so it's on Amazon site and everything. But what you do
Hmm.
is, you still create your own website.
Okay.
You funnel people to that website.
Hmm.
Now, people that might not meet you or know you, they'll automatically go to Amazon. It is what it is. But here's the issue: Amazon gets a 60% cut.
Mm.
So my book came out to $22 and I was getting only like $8. So I don't even count my Amazon sales. I've literally had people tell me that they bought the book. If they buy it from my website, I get an email saying that they got it. So if they tell me they got it and I didn't get an email, I know they got it from Amazon. And I've literally told people like, "Oh man, thank you for the support. Really appreciate it. You mind canceling that order and getting it from my website? Because on my website, not only do I double my income from the purchase, and you're supporting me, so it should matter that how much I'm getting. Which is why I tell people when anything that is sold independently, always ask the person, what's the best way for me to purchase it in order for you to get the support. And
Hmm.
so, plus, if you get it from my website, the book is signed and it's signed personalized to you. So,
Nice.
so not only do I get more of the profit if you go to my website, but I also sign your book. And so those two elements usually gets most people to be able to come to the actual website, before in order to make their purchases.
Yeah.
I'm also a perfectionist. I'm one of those people. If I catch an error in your book, I might stop reading it.
Oh wow.
I might not ever like buy your stuff again because it's like,
Well, that's why you need a really good editor so that
yeah.
you don't have these issues with.
So my first book was edited. I had a proofreader, I had a
Yeah.
story editor, and I had what I call emotion editors. An emotion editor is simply somebody who reads the book and then they track their emotional journey in reading it. So I knew where people were laughing, I knew where people were crying, I knew all those things before the book came out. So I knew what the emotional journey of the reader would be. Um, my proofreader was Courtney Sanders. My proofreader was Tierra Carr, excuse me.
Mhm.
And my proofreader was Tierra Carr. My story editor was Courtney Sanders, and then my emotion editors were Michelle Bird and Shantae Talbran, and
Mhm.
they were amazing for that first book. The second
Mhm.
one, I just had just a straight pure editor, and that was Cheryl Carr. If you haven't noticed, I've said a lot of women's names because Black women have been the hallmark and the foundation of everything that I do. They have been my squad both with Club FBS as well as with Biggie, as well as with my writing. I always rock with heavy the talented Black women around me. So
Man, shout out to all the black women
yeah,
out there
man, like
supporting the
I
behind
can't
the scenes stuff.
I can't do this stuff without them. And so,
Yeah,
so Black Bliss was more just me writing. Cheryl did the edit, and it came out clean because
man.
because the thing is, once you have a book, once it's out in the world, you can't do anything about it. So it's
Hmm.
like if you're gonna produce something, like at least make sure that you're producing something that you can be proud of for once, for one, and that others will also come back to you saying, "Yo, I really appreciated how much you."
Hmm.
Because to me, it's like if the writer didn't take the time to make it what it needs to be, then why should I take the time to read it? So like
Yep.
that's my mentality. It's like if you didn't take the time to make sure that this was on point, then why should I take time out of my life and money out of my pocket to purchase it as well as to read it? So I made sure
Yeah.
that nobody could come to me with any of those type of responses.
That is a true statement, and I'm also curious, because I know I'm believing Vinny, you didn't have an agent at that time, but after that you had an agent. What's the role of agent play in this? Like, is it really important, especially as a first time writer, to have one, or like give us the breakdown of that.
So anything I've done independently, which have been both of these books, my agent hasn't been involved with these two.
Hmm.
My The agent comes into play when you're trying to get traditionally published. Five publishing houses publish 80% of all books. They call them the Big Five, and if you want to go that route and end up in the Barnes and Nobles and the big stores and such, it's that's the route to go. The primary reason for me wanting to sign with an agent isn't the book part. It's the uh, getting my book optioned for a streaming service. So I mentioned earlier that I moved to California for screenwriting.
Hmm.
Some people don't know this about me, but I got really close. Um, I was working with Isaiah Washington at one point. Sally Richardson Whitfield was considering being directing, a piece of mine, and this list that I'm about to give you have all read my stuff in some way, shape, or form.
Hmm.
Ava DuVernay, Melinda Williams, Regina King, Michael B. Jordan. Um, who else is on that list? Journey Smollett. So like
Oh,
names that black
some
folks,
heavy names. Them
yeah,
some
like
heavy
they
names.
would know, right? Because I
Yeah.
got to work with another wonderful, talented black woman, Iman Milner, who gave me um, a short a short script for her that she had written and asked me to help her with making it into a whole feature. And
Yeah.
so we were shopping that in LA, and so like I've gotten close on the screenwriting side.
Yeah.
But with that industry, until signatures are being signed and are being written and checks are being signed, it doesn't matter. So even though I got close, the screenwriting thing I moved on from. So now my dream is to write a book that gets optioned at a streaming service and becomes a limited series.
Hmm.
And the reason why some of my favorite shows are limited series based off of books. And to me, a movie is not enough time to do a book. It's like you just don't have it's you just can't get to everything in a book with 2 hours, right? Or
Yeah.
two to 3 hours. A TV show can get what I call Game of Thrones, where
Hmm.
the last season of Game of Thrones wasn't based on anything that the original writer had written. So it was the writers of the show coming up with stuff, and that's why the last season wasn't nearly as good as the previous seasons. So to me, give me 7 to 10 episodes, which is longer than a movie but
Hmm.
shorter than a show, and that's the wheelhouse for me. So Lovecraft Country was based on a book. Um,
Yeah.
You was based on several books. Behind Her Eyes was based on a book. Like some of the best ones that have come out over the last few years, some of my favorite shows were based on books. So that's my real dream, is to get particularly the Vinny character, which in the new book his name is not Vinny. In the new book, his name is actually he's actually named after my nephew, August. And so there was a whole bunch of name changes. The man who owns the bookstore in the Vinny story is now named after Zachary Green. Uh, and I told him I did that too. I was like, yeah, his name is Zachary. So, but
Oh, I'm gonna be reading this new book with a
yeah,
whole new lens now.
the new one's gonna be different. So, and that one's gonna be called The Way Your Blood
Yeah.
Beats. And so I'm writing that one specifically based off the notes of my agent,
Uh-huh.
which is Vinny plus 20,000 words of extra plot. So it's a longer book. She stylistically, she made me make some changes. Because she said that, like, she could have sold it to a small literary house as is, but if I make the changes based on what she's telling me, she feels like she could sell it to the big five and that it could be a
Gotcha.
big book. So I'm
I
doing
love that.
that, but I wanted to put something in people's hand in the meantime on my own, and that's what led to Black Bliss. So people can
Gotcha.
at least now have those first two books to read while I'm working on getting stuff traditionally made. So
Yeah,
that's
the
where
thing
I'm.
that I love too about everything that you just said there is like if we make it for a series, I love that it's doing two things in my mind. It's one fighting stereotypes around black male storytelling, and putting it now to the screen, and allowing us to see representation in a different way, right? On both sides of the industry, and so like I'll say to that family, Rise Urban Nation family, if you listening, when was the last time you saw yourself fully represented in literature or on the screen, and not a stereotype, not a headline, but you layered in humanity. This is like the real way that we start to get our stories told, right? Our stories over his stories. Get, I see what I did there. Our stories over his stories.
Yep, all that.
Because our stories are not being told in that way and through mainstream media, and I think that's why I love podcasting as well. Podcasting, writing, I feel like all these literary forms allow us to kind of do that and take back our narrative through storytelling and pass it down from generation. You kind of in your work kind of even took that a step further, right? You didn't just write for adults, you built the next generation, and continue to do that through Club FBS, which you're building that legacy through mentorship. I'm sad that I missed the last dinner, but I'm gonna make sure I get to the next one.
Yeah, definitely.
Had a conflict in the schedule, but talk to us about Club FBS. Why create a book club and mentorship program specifically? I think you said you do 6th through 12th grade black boys. Why just that range?
So, I've been saying lately that Club FBS is my heart in organizational form. A lot of what we do with Club FBS is stuff I've done for years without being paid for it. It's stuff I've always been a part of, always wanted to do. And so sometimes when I see my Facebook memories and it shows me like the beginning stages of things that I didn't realize were the early pieces of what Club FBS eventually became. Like the literacy fair that I had, where I actually met our brother, Eric Morrison Smith, for the first time. He became involved with that, and then we've been rocking and rolling ever since. And so we had raised $5,000 for 300 books, in a short period of time. Shout out to Anjanette, who really helped me with that, as well as CJ Smith. We had a really dope team at that time, and Michael Love. And so I've always been like dang near an ice cream truck of books. Like if I saw a kid or I ran into a kid and I had books on me, like I was giving kids books. Like that's what I did. When I was at Gompers, students would come to me instead of going to the library because they liked the books I chose. Because I was really big on giving kids books that I felt like they would actually read, not books I thought they should read, but I thought they would read. And then once they develop trust in me, then I can slide them the books that I think, that they should read, right? And so always did that. And so I did my first young brother book club. That's what it originally was called at Gompers. Um, and did it there. Then when I got to Chicago, I had a huge library by that time. I had various people like Edith Jimerson, who purchased a whole bunch of copies of Vinny for me, a whole bunch of copies of Malcolm X for me, so I could deliver those to the boys. But book clubs were always something that I just loved to do with young men. And so when I conceptualized the program, I literally was like, okay, I've always wanted to have a mentorship program, always wanted to have a book club. Then when I came up with the sneakers as like the carrot at the end of the program, it was just a natural fit. And when we started it, that first year I was completely by myself. Like I was running the program on my own. Then the second year I brought my brother-in-law, Brandon Johnson, into the program. And that has changed everything because now not all the weight is on me. He brought in the financial literacy piece. This past summer, we changed the name. He was the one that pitched for us to change from Fitness Books and Sneakers to Finances Books and Sneakers, which I was very happy to do because I was tired of explaining to folks what a fitted was. And so a lot of people didn't know. And so it still allowed us to stay as Club FBS. And so going into the second year, we then launched the high school program at the University of San Diego. The reason why we're at the University of San Diego is because my boss with Biggie, Dr. Sean Green, I was having a conversation with him because I was looking for a location to have the Saturday program, and he was like, have it here. And I was like, where? He was like, yeah, we'll just have you guys down as community engagement, and Biggie is third Saturdays, Club FBS is second and fourth. And so we started hosting it there. Hosting it there allowed us to open it up to all boys around the county. So I got kids coming from up north, from down south, and USD is really like kind of in the middle. And the reason why we moved it to Saturday was because we were having low numbers our first year with our high school boys, because during the week they have way too many things available to them. You got sports, you got clubs, you got activities, you got school, you got jobs. And so we asked the boys themselves, like, yo, what would be the best day for us to get the most attendance from y'all? And a kid who's not even in the program anymore was the one who said it. He was like, Saturdays. And I was like, huh. And so we launched last year on Saturdays. I used Black San Diego as my recruiting space, as well as my own page, said what we were doing. And I got a lot of my moms that are now big supporters of the program through Black San Diego. And so we launched the program last year. We were in 5 middle schools last year. This year, we're just doing the high school program at 1 middle school. But next year, we're going to go back into having more of a middle school presence. But man, we got about 30 kids on the roster. We get about, 15 to 18 who are consistently coming all the time. And it's just been a beautiful, beautiful process. We've basically turned into an African American studies class with a financial literacy component. And our boys, like, the learning that happens in that room, we meet with them 17 times a year. And the kids will come back. I'll be like, yo, when was the first time you guys heard about Black Wall Street? When you told us? Like, the amount of Black history and the amount of learning that happens in our space that they're not getting in their classrooms is why I left the classroom. It's like, I only taught in charter spaces, which meant that I got to create a lot of my own curriculum. I've never been in a space where the district was telling me or the state was telling me. I wouldn't have listened anyway. Because I'm a rebel, I'm a rebel educator. I'm an abolitionist educator. You're not going to tell me what I'm going to teach my kids. Because if you tell me not to, that's giving me more reason to do so. And so I get to be blackety black as an educator on a regular basis. I get to teach kids about things that they don't hear about otherwise. My last session with my high schoolers, we talked about Nat Turner, Sarah Bartman, the Tuskegee experiments, and what was the fourth piece? The Tuskegee experiments, Sarah Bartman, Nat Turner, and I don't know why I'm blanking on the fourth one, but we basically
But
talked about four really difficult aspects of our history, and all the kids, like other than Nat Turner, the other three, they had never even heard of, like they didn't
yeah,
even know,
and that's
and
kind of a big deal because I think us growing up too. We didn't get that type of education in high school. We got it probably once we got to
college and
college.
beyond, yeah,
Yeah,
we didn't touch that stuff that early, but
yeah,
I have a philosophy that I call split in half,
yeah,
where I basically say anything I learned at 32, I'm gonna teach you at 16. Anything I learned at 30, I'm gonna teach you at 15. And it's not that you necessarily understand and get it at that moment, but your aha moment's gonna happen before mine did. So if I teach this to you at 16 and you have your aha moment at 22, and I didn't learn it till I was 32, you're ahead of the schedule than I was, right? And
yeah.
so it's and as educators and as mentors and such, we want our kids to be better than us.
Absolutely,
We
and
want
that's what
them
we're
to be
doing.
better than us. And if you go into it not wanting that, then you're going to hold back on the information that you provide them. And I'm completely against that. And
Yeah,
so my boys know that they can come to me and say, "Hey, Mr. Clark, I heard about this. Can we talk about it?" Absolutely. "Oh, I heard about this. What do you know about it?" Like they know that we are willing to tell them the truth and work with them through the truth. And our boys are getting so much from Mr. Johnson, from myself, on a regular basis, and they get to go home with this new batch of knowledge that when they get to the collegiate level, they're going to be monsters. They're going to
yeah,
be beasts, because
and
they're not only going to know the stuff that you're supposed to get taught in school, but they're going to have this whole other space of intelligence and information that nobody's going to be able to touch them.
yeah, and I want to double down on what you're saying. It's not only will they be ahead of the curve, but I think in what's going on in our society right now, where we see the dumbing down of education, where we see the stripping away of our stories and our history, that this is another formal or informal way, however you want to put it, for us to pass down our real stories and our legacies and what we know to be true, even if they dumb it down or they strip it off of monuments, we can still pass on
Mhm.
the written literature, even the books they try to ban. If they ban it, at least we got it in us and the stories can be
Yeah.
passed down, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I love what you're doing so much. Also want to give a shout out to I don't want to bypass Eric Morrison Smith because
Hmm.
um, Eric, you like, for those who followed the podcast religiously, you probably seen him on the episode that I did with my brother Ronald and Jordan for the Black History that still gets talked about to this day. I might have to redo that again with you
We need to come back
because
and we need to re up on
yeah,
that
we need
one.
to revisit that
Yeah.
because like that has aged like fine wine, especially right now in this moment in history.
Mm.
Um,
And that was during
and
the pandemic, because I was in Chicago on my couch
Oh
doing that
yeah, that was during
one.
the pandemic.
That was during
Dang.
the
So
pandemic.
yeah, we need to bring that back. Jordan, not Jordan. Eric has been doing. I don't know if you've been following. He's been doing these book readings
Hmm.
on social media of different books that he's diving into, reading chapters, doing the narration of it. I'm loving that because I'm learning through him as well, and then I see people engage. I think he even did a session where he what's her name? Used to do stuff on BT. Why can't I think of her name? Light skinned chick, but she got a big platform and she
Oh, Amanda Seals.
yeah, yeah. He got on her platform. I was like, wait, Eric doing stuff with her now.
Yeah.
But I'm just loving how we started off just doing this as community. And I
Hmm.
know you use social media, and I use podcasting. Eric uses social media, and I keep telling folks like, look, you got to put this part of your brand strategy, whether you go on podcast, social media. Um, because I've learned a lot through both of you brothers through social media as well. Are you also able to kind of put that lesson to other writers and creators? And what would you say to them, like how to use social media, podcasts, to amplify their voice in
So
this modern day marketing?
So I'll say this first. I remember what that fourth lesson was, and it was on Henrietta Lacks.
Yeah,
So it was Nat Turner, Sarah Bartman, the Tuskegee experiments, and Henrietta Lacks. That's what our day was. But so I actually tell you the truth, I'm gonna go into the marketing of Club FBS. So Michelle Ross, formerly, I met her as Michelle Bird, and her husband is amazing. They've been together for quite some time now, and she lives in Atlanta, and
Hmm.
but she's worked for Apple and Google, and uh, she now has been our marketing consultant for the
Hmm.
last few months, and completely has just taken us, like, basically tore us down to build us back up in regards to the marketing of Club FBS. And so our socials are being updated, our website's being updated, our consistency of posting is being updated, like everything around that, she's doing. And I just checked our numbers, and like, our last couple of posts went to levels that we've never even seen before, and it's just having a reach that we haven't seen before, and it's all because of the work she's doing. And then we also have a woman named Ashley Matthews, who runs Dynasty Media, and she's done our new logo. She's going to be updating the website. She's done our imaging, so she's doing it on the visual level. A lot of what Michelle has already done on the marketing side. And yet again, two brilliant Black women coming to the rescue of us.
Exactly.
And so they have really taught me a lot about what it looks like to, like, I didn't know what later was, but now I know
Yeah.
what later is, you know.
That's crazy that you said that because I thought you always did a great job because you constantly engage on me on your, at least on your own personal site, and then I thought that just automatically transferred
Because
over to the other.
I'll be honest with you, I don't engage on social media as much as I used to because I've
Uh,
stopped arguing with people. Um, like
okay, okay, I
I
get it.
used to argue like it was a sport. But
I wouldn't say argue. I debate. You
no,
were good at
it was
debating.
arguments when I was younger. Like I was coming at folks' necks. But when but I started becoming too known for controversial, posts and different things
Uh,
like that. And I remember I had one where it was like 250 comments on something I had done, and I'm talking about people calling out my character, multiple friendships like altered forever, and
right.
people deleting me. Like, it was just, and it wasn't worth it. Like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it wasn't worth it. And so now, like, I'll still have the thoughts. I might even write it out, and then I'll read it and go, nah, I'm good.
Right.
Like,
It, is that
I stay in the education, Black excellence. I don't even post stuff about sports anymore, because you're only arguing hypotheticals with that anyway. So
yeah.
I'm way more selective with my social media presence, which is
Uh,
why I love what we're doing with Club FBS now, because now the majority of my posts are simply just Club FBS stuff. Um,
yeah. To that point, is that what you think most creators when they engaging on social media or trying to do marketing on social media for the thing that they're doing, is that what you feel is the mistakes that most creators do on when they make and doing their online presence, or do you
I
have a
think
different take on that?
I think online presence is simply consistency.
Okay.
I should be able to click on your page and know what I'm getting every time. Like, when you like Kev on stage, who's a great example of having used social media to build his platform, right? When I
Hmm.
click on his page, I know what I'm getting from Kev. You know what I'm saying? I know what he's going to produce. My issue was always I wasn't consistent in what I wanted to produce. I was hopping all over the place.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, the more controversial slash negative posts were getting the most love. And I didn't
Hmm.
want to be known as that. I wanted to be able to produce things on a positive side and still get the same love. I ask myself all the time, like, if you would have asked somebody 10 years ago if Ronald would have ended up being a podcaster, they absolutely would have said yes,
Hmm.
because people saw me as someone who operated from my ego and operated from attention. And even though people saw me that way, I never saw me that way. I just do the work. If I posted every time I did something, your entire timeline would be me. But I
Hmm.
don't do this for that. And so I'm learning how to balance the two,
Yeah.
because there is a need for marketing, right? There's a need for putting yourself out there. There's a need for, being a presence in that way, but then also making sure you don't forget your why. Like,
Hmm.
you're too many people. You got people who literally post blatant incorrect information or blatant things they don't even believe in simply to get reactions and things from other people. And I'm like, I'm not doing it for that. Like, if I'm posting it, it's something that I either believe in or I trust. Me coming from journalism, like, it's my BA is in journalism. um I get so frustrated with people just assuming something is true simply because it's online or
Yeah,
somebody posted it. I'm like, yo, you gotta look at the source. You got people acting here out here thinking that they're providing newsworthy information, and they're completely incorrect. But
yeah,
because this generation is lazy when it comes to verifying things and checking sources, like, you just got misinformation being spread all over the place. And I'm like,
yeah. Journalism has got a little lazy too and sloppy with that.
yeah,
So,
I mean, I've been
uh,
on like reputable actual websites with grammatical errors and typos because, one, they've cut out a lot of the copy editors, who were the ones making sure that that wasn't happening, and two, everybody wants to be first,
yeah,
and
yeah,
everybody wants everybody to come to their site or whatever, so they're willing to sacrifice the precision that used to be journalism for likes and views, and I'm not willing to compromise my excellence for anything. So
yeah. I appreciate that. You know, I love all of the facts that you gave, and it made me think. You know, it's the consistency is one, and then what I hear too is really owning your own narrative and ownership of that narrative, so you're not all over the place, so people can understand what they're getting. Like you said, I want to do a quick transition, you know, because I want to make sure we get some lessons and advice from you. Shifting off of that, because me and you could talk for hours, and I know I'm not trying to do the Joe Rogan podcast, but we probably could if we just sat and chat.
man, all day,
uh,
every day.
so I'm thinking about like some of my creators, educators, and entrepreneurs that listen. You know, especially for some of those Black and Pan African entrepreneurs listening, especially that are in that education, writing, or community workspace. What should they understand about building outside of the system like you have done?
Be good at what you do. Like, too many people ask for things that their skill set isn't worthy of, and I say that very directly at both others and myself. Um, I wasn't a good host of my open mic when I first started.
Mm,
4 years later, on my last night, we had 250 people in the room, and I was the best host in San Diego. I could actually say that out of my mouth at that time. I could not have said that when I first started.
mhm,
Um, when I moved back to San Diego, I literally wrote on my Instagram, I am coming home to become the preeminent voice in Black education K through 12 in San Diego County.
mm,
I literally, that was my goal. If I'm not that person, I am literally in the running for that that um that particular name. Like, I tell students, you want to be one of the first names out of somebody's mouth for whatever it is that you do. When it comes to writing and it comes to teaching, especially the education piece, I am now one of those names in San Diego. Um, so at the end of the day, like, focus on your craft. Everything else is going to come, but people start marketing before they're good at what they do. People start asking for raises and asking for prices on being a guest speaker and different things when they're not good at what they do. Like, be good, be great, be excellent first, and then all the other things will come. I haven't applied for a job and I don't know how long,
mhm,
because it's the only thing I apply for now are grants. um, that's the only thing I'm submitting an application for now. Because now, if it has to do with work, I'm the one that's hit up.
mhm,
Like, whether it's principals or superintendents or people who are running organizations and such, who want me to come and either speak to their students or work behind the scenes or whatever it is. I'm the one that's being asked to do things now. And I tell students, I say, you want to get to the point where you're not having to apply for jobs. One, jobs are one thing, career is another. I am a career educator. And I happen to work with the Black and Genius Initiative at USD and run my own nonprofit with Empowering Mentorships, which is our flagship, which is where the flagship program is Club FBS. But I didn't get to where I'm at until I became good at what I do. I couldn't have done this stuff early in my education career. I didn't know any better. I didn't know how good I could become, but I worked, I read, I learned, I made mistakes. Be great at what you do. If your focus is being great, then everything else, the accolades, the money, whatever it is that your eventual goal is, if you are mediocre, you're going to get mediocre results. Period. And there's too many people who, like the generation below us, are the microwave generation. They want everything immediately. When your career is an oven, it needs to sit, it needs to marinate, it needs to take time. You're going to make mistakes that first time you cook that dish. You got to keep cooking. You got to keep figuring it out, right? And so I think that's my biggest gripe with just society as a whole, is that people don't take the time to be
That's
great.
why nothing competes with grandma's dish, because it took all day to make that meal, right? And it
Thank you.
can't be replicated
It
in
can't
no
be
microwave.
replicated. And I'm glad you used that phrase, can't be replicated, because there are certain things that I do only I can. And you have to create that type of packaging of whatever your skill set is. Like me and Brandon are putting together our Club FBS Bible right now, so we can eventually sell the program to other school districts and schools in other cities and states. They're not going to be able to completely replicate our program because they won't have me and Brandon, but I can give them a starting point. But
Give
the
them the
selling,
ingredients, give them the
I can give
recipe.
them the recipe. It might not taste exactly the same, but you can still get a good meal out of it, right? But I had to position myself as a unique voice, as a unique entity where, yeah, you can try to emulate it, but you can't do what I do, and that's on
Hmm.
purpose, right? That's on purpose, because if somebody else could do what I do, somebody else would do it,
Hmm.
and then now where am I at? Right now, nobody can replicate Taryell.
Man,
Nobody can replicate Jordan. Nobody can
man,
replicate Eric. Right?
man.
We've
People
reached
out here saying that they made Hove. All right, make another Hove.
that. Exactly. You know, what I'm saying, bars, right? So when working with young people, it's just constantly getting them to the point of understanding that, one, greatness is all the time. It's not a one-time thing. You can be great on a Tuesday, but are you going to be great on Wednesday too? And it's, at the end of the day, the money will come if you do something that you love and you do it well. Like, there are people who are doing stuff right now that I'm like, who would have even woken up and thought to even do that? But they love it and they're passionate about it. And now they're making a living off of their passion. And nothing is better than waking up every day and getting to go do the thing you would do for free. The work I do now, I would do for free. I just get a chance to not have to. And there's nothing better than that. I wake up every day and get to decide, like, aside from already scheduled meetings and such, I get to determine what I do every day. But I earn the right to do that. I turn 40 in September. 30-year-old me? Absolutely not. 25-year-old me? Absolutely not. I had to take the time to get to this point. And so don't rush being good at it because you're frustrated that you're not getting the results that you want. You're not getting the results that you want right now because you're not good enough yet. And there's nothing wrong with saying that to yourself. I'm not good enough yet. It's perfectly fine if you're willing to then make yourself good enough in the long run. So,
Yeah, got to put in the work, ladies
mm,
and gentlemen. Round on Preston Clark. You got to put in the work.
mm,
Be in tune to the process and be good at what you do. Ronald, that was a very powerful statement. I don't even want to mess it up by adding more to it. But before we close,
Yes,
you
sir.
got to let people know, one, where can people find this book? Where can we get the Black Bliss Volume 1? How can they support Club FBS? Where can they follow your work? Give them all the info.
All right, so Black Bliss Volume 1 as well as Vinny a Love Letter can both be found on my website, which is rprestonclark.com, down at the bottom of there. All right, rprestonclark.com, real nice and easy. You can purchase both books on the website. For Club FBS, you can follow us on IG at Club FBS. You can follow our Facebook page as well. Again, shout out to Michelle for setting those up. You can follow us at Club FBS as well on Facebook. Our website is clubfbs.com. Please, check there for any updates and such. And if you want to donate, we accept donations in various ways, including the website. You can go to the website to donate. You can also reach out to me directly, and we have, we got Cash App, we got Zelle, we got, all the good things that allow for folks to donate funds to the causes and organizations that they want to. We're available to do so. Quick and easy is the website, but if you want to reach out to me directly, feel free. And all the funds that we receive go to the purchasing of our books, to our events, to the food that we give the kids at our meetings. It goes to the the packages the gift packages we give to the students at the end of the year. Their sneakers, their extra books. Like if a kid is with us in sixth grade and stays with us till 12th grade, he'll have a minimum of 55 books under his belt, all written by African American writers.
That's what's up. That's
So
what's up.
literally starting our young men's libraries off on the right direction, and so
Man.
are in the right direction. So we're going to be having an official when we have our official brand relaunch in March. We will be having our first official fundraiser, as well as our end of the year showcase this year is going to be a fundraiser as well. So you'll have multiple opportunities to support Club FBS, the work we're doing. We currently have 45 boys in the program. And next year we are going to be recruiting again. We only have one senior this year, so we have a whole bunch of returnees, as well as our eighth graders are going to be moving up to the high school program. So we're going to be deep next year. And as Taryell mentioned earlier, what I have on right now is the Club FBS gear. We rocking quarter zips nowadays, you know what I'm saying? And and so
They about that quarter zip life.
yeah, so if you see us out in the world, you see our boys out in the world and they're rocking this, you know that they are part of Club FBS. But lastly, before I get out of here, I want to shout out Brandon Johnson, who's my brother-in-law. But I hate the in-law part. He's my brother. My sister made a great decision in marrying him. Good man. For rocking with me with Club FBS and bringing his brilliance and expertise into the space to allow us to grow to where we are right now. And as kids who are in my workshops and such, when I do my intro at the beginning, I love my mama. So shout out to her. Shout out to my sisters, Rihanna and Braynisha, who gave birth to my favorite people, Deja, Marley, and Langston, and August, rest in peace. And so just wanted to give a shout out to my family because I'm not here without them. They allow me to have the schedule that I have. They give me the grace that I need in order to have the schedule that I need. And so just shout out to them for continuing to be there for me, and for supporting me. And I have way more family members that I could mention, but I won't. They know I love them. To my friends who are always with me, more than appreciate y'all for checking on me and making sure that I'm doing what I can, because I can be a lot sometimes. I do understand that. But at the end of the day, my heart's in the right place, and forever and always, A Phi A, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated.
I knew you was gonna throw that in
Yeah,
there.
I gotta throw it up at least one good time, baby. You gotta throw it up one good time. And my brothers in Zeta Sigma Lambda chapter here in San Diego have truly been there for me. 15 of our 27 mentors at our mentor dinner in December were members of ZSL. So
That's what's up.
shout out to the brotherhood for always being there for me and my boys. But yeah, man, we doing it out
Yeah. That's what's up, Bob. I appreciate both you and Brandon and all of the women that hold it down to make this program what it is. Keep writing, keep telling the stories, keep putting books in these young men's hands that are really shaping their future and their narratives. And I can't wait to see what's next for you on the horizon. And to all my listeners who are listening, make sure y'all go buy the book. Buy the book, man. Support my brother. Buy the book. Support the mentorship initiatives. Leave a review. Share the episode. Tell a friend to tell a friend.
here.
If you really love what you heard today and want to see my brother Ronald Preston Clark succeed in what he's doing. Next week, we continue exploring how narratives and entrepreneurship intersect to shape culture and legacy. So until next time, unite, uplift, and ignite. Peace.